It's me. I'm that mama. I'm 40 years old and fat. I have faced some barriers because of my size, but more so because of the stigma and lack of accessibility with outdoor education and nature-based programs. I will be sharing both the research and anecdotes of those living in fat bodies and their experience while trying to engage and enjoy nature. Russell, Cameron, Socha, and McNinch echo my sentiments on how obesity has turned fatness into a disease, and society says that we must wage war on it. Fat people, particularly women, are demonized and characterized as weak, lazy, indulgent. The DSM-5, the Bible of mental health professionals, has made the link between mental health disorders and obesity, despite the fact that many studies show that this is not accurate. As a result, a mentally well and fat individual may be recommended to a psychiatrist based on their embodiment alone. Dr. Paul and Hubner show that despite decades of scientific data documenting weight stigma, its public health implications are widely ignored. Weight stigma remains a socially acceptable form of bias, negative attitudes, and stereotypes towards obese people, like the jokes in the beginning of this video. These stereotypes and biases have been frequently reported by employers, co-workers, teachers, physicians, nurses, medical students, dietitians, psychologists, peers, family, and friends. Throughout history, stigma has imposed suffering on groups vulnerable to disease and impaired efforts to thwart the progression of disease. Disease stigma occurs when groups are blamed for their illness because they are viewed as immoral, unclean, or lazy. This stigma is a threat to appropriate health care, self-worth, mental health access, and accessing activities such as being outdoors, things that bring them joy. In Laura Jennings' work, Public Fat, she shares how being seen as obese or fat is portrayed across Canada. In most provinces, those who are fat are shown as a burden to the Canadian system and are stigmatized in the language that is used. The annual Canadian Participation Study says obesity is pervasive and arguably the greatest health challenge to our children and youth today. Reducing obesity is listed as the benefit over 35 times for being outside in nature. This is more times than any other reason that one may be outside in nature, such as connecting with nature, connecting with others, physical health, emotional health, mental health. Losing weight is listed more times than all these other reasons combined. I feel a strong connection to Hannah McNinch's story in Fatties Cause Global Warming, a fat pedagogy in environmental education. She shares how there wasn't a single fat participant and the topic of fostering an inclusive environment for all body sizes was never discussed. The complete lack of and disregard for size perpetuates an assumption that the outdoors is only a place for those who are deemed fit and able. I was taught that my weight was a measure of my worth. I was taught this both through school and through media. I started to judge myself solely according to my weight. Similar to McNinch, Heather McNinch shares how she began to opt out of outdoor activities that she really enjoyed because she thought that she was too big to participate. She shares how, although she really loves canoeing, she stopped going and participating in canoeing because she was worried that she might slow people down or that she might sink the boat. She also loved climbing trees, but she started avoiding that activity because she was repeatedly taunted with the perception that she might get stuck up in the tree because of her size. The negative experience that she shares reflect mine, as well as those who graciously decided to participate in my interview. Our passion for being outside has been hampered because of people's bias and perception of fat people. Some of us are just beginning to start going outside again and engaging with nature decades after we stopped because of our perception of what a fat person can do. Still others say that they're still not comfortable in participating in outdoor activities because of the bias and the stereotypes that they have and that they continue to experience today. For myself, I'm finally able to refuse to allow others to choose appropriate interests for me. Whether this be canoeing, climbing, water games, biking, or hiking, activities that I love but I put on hold for far too long because of the stigma associated with my weight. If weight-based oppression continues within our education field, I'm concerned that many other youth may also avoid the outdoors, similar to the many that you will hear from today. This will create missed opportunities to foster appreciation of and connection to the natural world. For this project, I wanted to not only engage with the literature, but also interview those who identify as fat. I put out a post on Facebook asking if anyone would mind sharing their experience with education, specifically nature education, and barriers that they may face because they are fat. Within 1 hour of it being on my Facebook page, I had over 40 responses, 40 specific people looking to talk and share their experience and the barriers that they face because they are fat. Megan is going to share her experience going cross-country skiing with her class. Little consideration was given to her body and the bodies of others in her class when they made the decision to do cross-country skiing for an outdoor activity.
The ski incident obviously took place outdoors as well. Skis are actually how I tore my ACL to begin with, downhill skiing. So I was a little apprehensive about getting on skis, and it's really awkward bending down to fasten the skis when you've got like a bit of a belly and, you know, your feet are far away from you. Attaching the skis, I couldn't do it like from bending down. And the damn things are so long in the back, so I had to get down on the ground, and I'm sitting cross-legged, wearing a mask. The kids are all watching me, and I'm feeling like completely humiliated at this point. It is not an activity that I would have elected to do. It was just kind of decided. They put the skis, you're gonna do it, you know? And I started hyperventilating because I'm wearing the mask and it's hot and I'm breathing heavily and I'm frustrated. And then I started having like a straight-on panic attack, and I'm bawling in front of the kids at this point. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so unprofessional. I can't stop. Michelle comes out and she's like, are you okay? Here, I'll help you up. And again, I'm like on the ground and I'm like, I don't want your help up because like I'm heavy. I don't want to hurt her helping me up, right? So it was just like, it was such a charade and a comedy of errors, and it was so humiliating, and like it was just, it was horrible.
Many people shared similar ideas on giving up on various activities as there were not accessible resources available to them. For example, one woman shared how she gave up triathlon training as she could not find a wetsuit to fit her body. Others gave up skiing and skating as they could not find ski pants and jackets to fit. And every single person who had breasts that I interviewed shared that they had quit an outdoor activity or an athletic activity that they enjoyed because they could not find athletic bras within a price range they could afford. For those not familiar with the cost of a plus-size athletic bra, most of them start around $150 each. Brianne will share her experience growing up in a fat body while being an athlete. She shares how she was bullied and was constantly made to feel not a part of the team because of her size.
So I have always been not the streamlined athlete as most of my colleagues have been, but I am athletic. So I grew up playing any and every kind of sport. The biggest thing was sizes, especially when I was a kid, because you go on and you're on a youth baseball team, and you know, when you are maybe a women's small, women's medium, and they go to youth size extra large and you don't fit, and all of a sudden you're wearing different pants than everybody else, people wonder why, and they make comments. And kids can be mean, and their parents back them up most of the time. And you could see that even in school pictures. Like if you go back and look at our high school pictures, I was either sitting or in the background, so you couldn't see my body. And anybody whose body was not of the standard of what they wanted was placed in some place where they couldn't, or with the ball in front, so you couldn't see if we had a belly. So, and that was just like, it was just standard. Like I just knew exactly where I would go. I thought it would change when I got older, and it didn't. Unfortunately, I am a runner, and I'm an ultra marathoner, and people look at me and they look me up and down and go, "You're a runner?" Yeah, my thighs are thick, I have a belly, my arms jiggle.
She took a pause from activities that she loved because of these experiences and these fat-phobic comments that she got from others. But now, after almost 30 years, she's reclaiming her space and her body by once again doing activities that she loves outside. Brianne shares how she works in a school with a robust outdoor education program. Yet she sees many barriers still existing for students today through the activities that are chosen and the lack of access to appropriately fitting gear for students. This causes students to become discouraged and often will find a way to get out of the activity to avoid humiliation and shame for their bodies.
And we have an outdoor ed department, and we don't have skis that fit them. We only have the small cross-country skis. We don't have the boots. We don't have gloves. And I know it sounds funny, like how can you not get gloves? But when you are, you have small, medium, and large, you don't have the extra large. You don't have adult sizes. You're still using the youth sizes. Some of these men, I'm going to use because they've developed now, are bigger. They need that. Mm-hmm. We have snow pants you can borrow, but not in any sizes that, unless you are tall and thin, will fit into. And that gets really frustrating because I've noticed that some of even our students don't want to participate then because they don't have the equipment at home. And then when they come in and have to ask for it, they hate the fact that it doesn't fit. So they purposely dress inappropriately or bring things that are inappropriate to go out in the winter sports and even the summer sport.
Time and time again, I heard stories of those who stopped hiking as they didn't know if they could pass through between narrow rocks, or those who chose not to go on boat rides because they were unsure if there would be a life jacket that would fit them, or those who didn't go for the walk or the bike ride with others, as if they were to slow someone down, their weight would be blamed, or still others who didn't go play outside with their kids in the middle of winter because there wasn't appropriate snow wear for them to wear. These experiences, sometimes quite blatant and other times a series of microaggressions, deter those living in fat bodies from experiencing nature. As Russell points out, environmental education is not immune to obesity discourse. Childhood obesity is often linked to why we need outdoor education. It's so that these children can lose weight. We've seen this in much of the literature surrounding outdoor education. In Louv's book, Last Child in the Woods, he says childhood obesity is one of the dire consequences of the lessening contact with nature. Yet, this is mostly speculation. Rather, many children will not participate in outdoor activities because the resources are not available to them, and they are continually made to feel like there's something wrong with the body that they are living in. This message comes from school, media, their peers, adults around them, and the continued message that fat bodies are bad and they need to be changed. Many people in the interview shared that they chose not to participate in activities as they had repeatedly heard this message over and over. Eventually, they either believed it or they were just so tired of fighting back that they decided that it just wasn't worth the fight anymore. Often decisions were even made for them when others chose not to invite them to different outdoor activities because they thought that the person in the large body would not want to or would not be able to participate. If we are committed to both environmental and social justice, reducing oppression of any sort, including fat oppression, is paramount. Dehumanizing fat people is sexist and fatphobic, and addressing this intersectional barrier is essential to ensure that all people can experience nature. Dr. Friedenhoff says there's no question that stigma and bias and discrimination surrounding obesity is the fairest game. In popular culture, the vilification of obesity is constant. Whether it's obscene characters who are clumsy or lazy or gluttonous, or the types of responses to public policy statements about dealing with obesity. If committed to social justice, we must work towards reducing oppression of any sort, including fat oppression. There are various ways for us to address this. The first is to monitor our own use of obesity discourse. How are we talking about fat bodies, or even our own bodies? We need to focus on being in nature and being active with nature for enjoyment, for learning, for connection, not because we're looking to make our bodies smaller. We need to ensure that the paths are accessible for a wide range of people, and that outdoor gear or gear that you use while engaging with nature is accessible to a wide range of people. Thanks so much for listening, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts. But now, it's time for me to go. I have hills to hike, bike rides to go on, lakes to swim in, trees to climb, and nature to explore, all in this body that is enough.